Ahoj, tady spgameplay.cz neboli Pepa, vítám vás u hry Vampyr. Tak, my jsme se skončili tady, jak jsem vám říkal, a jdeme se mrknout rovnou na ty ostatní postavy, co zde máme a který tady hlavně hrajou velkou roli.
Excuse me, sir. I have a few questions for you.
Another journalist? I didn't answer the first one, so piss off!
I'm not a journalist, I'm a doctor.
A doctor, you say? It's quite a rare breed in this part of town.
Really? But still, here I am. Dr. Jonathan Reed, at your service.
I'm Joe Peterson to some, but Colossus Joe to most. And I don't remember asking for your service, sir.
May I ask what you do around here?
I do whatever I want, and sometimes even more. Now sod off.
According to you, physicians are scarce in this part of town. Why is that?
Not familiar with this neighborhood, are you? I guess your fancy colleagues are too afraid of being stabbed in the back.
This part of town does have quite a reputation. Would you say it's justified?
Totally. Look at me, for instance. I always look my opponent in the eye before knocking him out.
Super, takže ty budeš asi nějaký ten hlavní člověk, co tady?
Have you heard of a nurse named Dorothy Crane? She's a colleague of mine and is supposed to live around here.
Dorothy Crane? Yeah, I know her. One of the few good souls who dare to help the sick around here.
Could you please tell me more about her?
She's a nice girl. Tries to help the migrants. I offered to give her a hand, but she said my reputation would attract too much attention.
Jasně, no. Takže jsme se zase nic nedozvěděli.
Goodbye,
no.
Mr. Peterson.
Tak, tady máme nějakého dalšího, povídej.
Welcome, sir. Please take a browse of my wares.
I am Dr. Reed. I would like to ask you a few questions if you don't mind.
Doctor? Interesting. I'm Barrett Lewis. Usually I don't have time to waste with talk, but at this hour of the night I can hardly refuse.
Další obchodník, jo. Tak nejdřív koukneme na ty obchody.
Right then. Show me what you have.
Tak, co tady pro mě máš hezkého? Maličká část dobré rukojeti, to se nám asi bude hodit možná až do budoucna. Já bych řekl, že všechno asi mezi tím najdem. Pokud by mi jako hodně akutně něco chybělo, tak si asi to pak koupíme, no, ale když koukám na ty ceny, tak to není až tak. No, jak co?
Fancy buying something, sir?
You never lose your focus, do you?
Tak, a ty se jmenuješ teda Barrett Lewis, tak mi něco o sobě pověz a povídej.
How is business around here?
Business? I have no business. Between this racket, theft, and customers getting scared, I'm losing money every day.
I see. Sounds like you blame someone in particular for your situation.
It's no secret Joe Peterson spends his time harassing merchants. But with me, he's trying to put me out of business once and for all.
As a merchant, you see Whitechapel every day. Have you noticed anything out of the ordinary recently?
Well, you mean besides the epidemic, the war, and all the usual crap? As long as I can remember, this part of town has been a bottomless pit, and no sign of the bottom yet.
Violence is increasing in the borough.
Yeah. A few nights ago, some blokes jumped me. Came out of one of the condemned workshops. Fever, madness, something like that.
Where did this happen? Why did you go there?
In the closed workshops nearby. I worked there as an apprentice in better days. Now I only go to find trinkets or tools. Too bad I was mugged, though. There was good money in that little box of loot I lost.
Have you been hurt?
No, but that's only because I ran like hell. Those men were raving lunatics, I tell you. Not even able to speak anymore, just screaming.
Dobrá, máme nový vyšetření. Dobře.
Have you heard of a nurse called Dorothy Crane?
Nurse Crane? So the bitch really is a nurse, then? Always thought she was just some crafty foreigner, that one.
Oh, yeah. Co pak mu na to řekneme? On si myslí, že je to štětka, co? A tak tu řekneme tak, že je to skvělá sestra. Nevím teda, co mi na to poví, no, ale snad to bude dobrá odpověď.
Yes, she's a nurse, and quite a good one. What did she do to gain such notoriety?
Dorothy Crane ain't even a real name. Something like Dorothea Craneau. Something like that. Came to England fleeing the war, I was told.
That doesn't explain why she irritates you so much.
Your precious nurse Crane gives away medical supplies and prescriptions for free. I offered to sell it for a fair cut, but no. Miss Crane wanted to play the quiet saint.
Goodbye for now, Mr. Lewis.
Hodně si mi pomohl, kamaráde.
Cheap price, good quality.
Nízké ceny, dobrá kvalita. Bychom se mohli zeptat toho Petersona ohledně tý fit... Ježiš, teď jsou nemocný. Na tu jeho situaci. Tak můžem, ne?
You again? What do you want this time?
Tentokrát mám na tebe nějakou osobní... A nemám na tebe žádnou osobní otázku. Mám.
How did you become the local bully everyone is afraid of, Joe?
There's no pride in roughing up poor bastards. But this is the only job I found. And it pays well, too.
A job? So you're racketeering for someone else?
I got enlisted by the Wet Boot Boys, a gang from the docks. I'm their muscle for their dirty work.
Tady je to asi, tady možná zvolím tu odpověď, no. No, on ví, že je kriminálník, mohl to odmítnout. Přežití je zákonem přírody.
Any cost, even at the expense of others. Perhaps that's just the law of nature.
I don't care what you think, sir. I do what I have to do for my own reasons, and that's that.
I'm not sure Mr. Lewis would agree with your by all means necessary philosophy, sir.
Oh, do you really think he's the poor victim here? Barrett can be as sneaky as anyone. Long ago, I even called the bastard my best friend.
Jasně, tady si házíme jako špínu, jo.
Goodbye, Mr. Peterson.
Jasně, no. Se zase ptat jeho, on zase něco jiného.
Fancy buying something, sir?
You never lose your focus, do you?
Tak, jo.
Joe Peterson. He's the villain here, isn't he? But you seem to know each other.
I'd known Joe for years. I saw him box once or twice. He was a friend then. But these days, he's just another thug.
What can you tell me about Mr. Peterson? Besides his behavior toward you, obviously.
Colossus Joe was a decent boxer, good one even. But after his wife passed away, he found every excuse to stop training. Just wanted to pick fights with everyone.
Na tohle asi povím... Tohle, no.
Without making excuses for him, it's safe to say that despair can poison even the sanest mind.
We've all had some rough times, ain't we? But most of us don't use our fists to see us through.
And no one has ever stood up to this thug.
Nobody would be fool enough to stand against the Wet Boot Boy.
Tak to je asi všechno, no, tak dík, no.
Goodbye for now, Mr. Lewis.
Já furt nevím, co jsou ty holinkáři. Já furt nevím. Nevím, nějaký idiot, který máchá rukama. Tam nevím nějakou holku. Slečnou dámu, já nevím. Řekněte mi, kdo jste, Ježiši.
Don't be shy, handsome. What can Christina do for you?
I'm not looking for what you're selling. But I'd like to ask you a few questions, if I may. I'm a doctor. Dr. Reed.
All right then, but be quick, though I usually get paid when I open my mouth.
Tak samozřejmě, vždycky dostaneš zaplaceno. Tak mi něco pověš.
Christina, have you been examined? The epidemic is spreading fast in London, and you could be exposed, or expose others.
I don't like doctors or hospitals, but I don't like you asking questions.
Considering your line of work, I assure you it is only a matter of time before you have health issues.
If it is going to happen, it will happen. Right now, I need money. That's what's important.
You can put your own life in danger, that's your decision. But what about your clients? If you're contaminated, you will put them in danger too.
And you think that would worry me? If you knew the men I deal with, their health would not be what you'd worry about.
No, to asi nechám na tobě, no. No, zajímavý, no. Zase tady je únava. 4.
Tell me about yourself.
Are you joking with me? People don't usually come to see me for conversation.
I have no interest in your work. I am, however, curious as to what led you into this career.
Short story. The war, exile, and England. This country is not especially welcoming. I've been refused many jobs because of where I am from. I had few options left.
Potřebuje mi něco řekla, tak když jí řeknu, že by si měla jinou práci, teď mi řekla, že ji má. Má práci, no, ono. Nevím, tady nesoudím vás, že sama jste se rozhodla prodat své tělo, to je takový. Dám tohle. U nás ten zase tam bude vykecávat nějaký blbosti.
I always thought I was the master of my own fate. But now I know we don't always have control over our lives. I don't judge you.
You know, this money is not only for me. I have good reasons to need this money quickly. But it is not your concern, Doctor.
Dobrý, to byla dobrá otázka, odpověď teda. Tak, tady už nemáme moc co se na co vyptávat, jenom na tu sestru zase.
Do you know Nurse Dorothy Crane from the Pembroke Hospital? Anything you can tell me about her would be helpful.
I don't know her, but I know her name is Dorothea Crasionescu. She came from Romania like me and many others.
You seem to respect her.
Dorothea helps the sick people of Whitechapel. Everyone should respect that.
Dobrá.
Goodbye, miss. Take care of yourself as best you can.
Tady Popová se o sebe postará velice dobře, bych řekl. Tady něco? Tady je zase koš. Nice. No, dobrá tedy. Takže jsme zatím toho zjistili jsme teda to, že ta Dorothy, že jo, tady ta Dorothy, tak tady se prostě skrývá, dejme tomu, nebo snaží se ukrývat to, že tady vůbec je a že pomáhá. Takže oni jakoby asi vědí, že tady je a můžou jí dávat, chodit za ní pro léky a tak, ale... Ale že by někdo o ní něco víc věděl, je to takový velmi zmatečný. Takže pokud sám s tebou.
Excuse me, sir. Are you familiar with this part of town? Name's Clayton Darby, reporter.
Sorry, I'm new to Whitechapel. But perhaps you could help me since you're a journalist. My name is Jonathan Reed.
Dr. Reed, the famous surgeon. I'll gladly help if I'm able, sir.
Takže to je tenhle ten lékař teda, novinář, kterýho my zároveň hledáme, protože by měl mít nějaký informace o Dorothy. No nic, začneme teda zase vyšetřování v Londýně, tak jdem na to.
Why are the newspapers keeping silent about the Spanish influenza? It's as though none of you care.
There's a war going on. People shouldn't be demoralized by news of deadly diseases.
No je to asi, já tady s tím asi souhlasím, no.
I served in France. Our top priority must be to put an end to this butchery. This war must stop now.
Sir, streets are a battlefield too. An invisible and untold war is going on, and it must be stopped.
Have you any idea of the danger you face in these streets at night?
I've had to run and hide more than once from frenzied mobs incensed by the fever. Do you think the flu is really responsible for this, Doctor?
Můžeme mu říct, že to není obyčejná epidemie. Jo, můžeme tedy trošku to říct trošku jinak. Řekneme mu to, že neexistuje racionální vysvětlení. Zatím to nevíme.
That science is unable to explain the facts doesn't mean there is no rational explanation.
I confess, I share your point of view, Doctor.
What is a journalist doing in this borough after sunset?
He goes where none of his colleagues would dare to go, to inform the country.
So you risk your life to reveal the truth. I saw many reporters do the same during the war.
Whitechapel is the crucible of so many untold stories and tragedies. I want people to know them.
That's quite honorable of you. But is the public interested?
Not at all, sir. And that's why I'm an independent journalist, hoping to sell some stories.
Christina Popper claims she sells her body because she can't find any other work. Do you believe her?
Of course I do. Her story is exactly what I want my readers to understand. We live in an intolerant and divided nation.
Do you think things will ever change, Mr. Darby?
I believe the situation can only improve. And now that women can vote, I'm convinced things will change.
Teď jsme toho hry celkem dost, kamaráde. Akorát máme zase 4 fascinace. Zase máš únavu. To já fakt budu muset udělat ty léky a pak vás tady vyléčit.
I heard you're investigating an underground medical dispensary in Whitechapel. What do you know about it?
Not much, I'm afraid. They are wary of strangers and I'm not really an acquaintance of theirs. Why do you care?
Cesta, kterou znám, je v ohrožení, je to tajné, starám se o veřejné zdraví. Můžeme říct, že je to tajné, aby se to ještě víc nešťoural, ale mě ho to zajímá taky. Starám se o veřejné zdraví. Dá se to tak trošku říct, jako takovej, já nevím, takový policajt, který zároveň léčí lidi, no, a pak je zabíjí. A pak se snaží odůvodnit, proč ten člověk umřel. Řekneme, že sestra, kterou znám, je v ohrožení. A asi můžeme tedy asi říct, ale on to roznese všude, no. Uvidíme, co se stane.
I'm afraid one of the nurses from the Pembroke Hospital may be involved with unsavory activities.
Could it be Dorothy Crane?
Without a doubt, you are a damn fine journalist, Mr. Darby. What do you know of her accomplice, a man named Darius?
I don't know much about the man. He's very cautious. Never goes out. Doesn't seem to have any friends or family.
He has no relatives at all?
No. Except for that strange man, a poet named Richard Nethercott, who sometimes comes by. Darius would never let him in.
Where can I find this Mr. Nethercott?
He spends most of his time lurking around Whitechapel, talking to himself or declaring verses. These days, you can usually find him behind the church.
He never goes out?
No. A few days ago, he unexpectedly did. I followed him, but it was just a ruse to keep me away from his house.
Really? How do you know?
He went to the nearest mailbox, but just before posting his letter, he ripped it up and threw it away.
Dobrá.
Goodbye, Mr. Darby. Farewell.
Vypadá to, že toho člověka, kterýho hledáme, je za kostelem. Takže to nám trošku jde dobrý. A já se ještě pokecám s tímto člověkem, který tady furt máchá rukama.
Forgive my interruption.
Do not apologize, my son. Father Tobias Whitaker is always happy to teach mortals about the incoming Armageddon.
I am Dr. Jonathan Reed, and I just have a few questions.
A scientist? You are much more lost than I thought, my son.
What do you mean when you say that I am more lost than you thought?
All scientists are entangled in a world of causes and consequences, and most of them can't see the plain truth.
Quite a judgmental opinion, if you ask me. But what do I know? Blinded by science as I am.
But you are seeking answers, aren't you? Answers about the Armageddon about to strike the city. Answers about the hidden truth.
I am. But the answers I seek are based on facts, not superstition. What do you mean when you say that I am more lost than you thought?
All scientists are entangled in a world of causes and consequences.
To se
And
opakuje,
most
jo.
of them can't see the plain truth.
Quite a judgmental
But you
Takže my ho můžeme vyslechnout, já nechci vyslechnout moje ty řeči, no, Dáme ti prostor.
Well, I suppose I can spare a few minutes listening to your so-called truth.
As a doctor, you must be aware of the decimating epidemic. But let me tell you that this so-called Spanish flu is just the beginning of the end.
What do you mean?
The beast is finally revealing itself, corrupting the flesh and the heart of men. With my own eyes I have seen them, those minions from the abyss.
Really? And what would be your answer to this biblical threat?
We must fight the disease before this legion outnumbers us. But not with scalpels and microscopes. No.
What is left then?
Cleansing fire.
Tell me, Tobias, what exactly is your plan concerning the cleansing of this city?
God will recognize his own. More than once this city has risen from the ashes, hardened and purified by the flames.
Purification by fire has proved useful, but where do you stop? Burn the clothes? The buildings? The corpses? Worse?
Your lack of faith is predictable. But my task is to convince rational minds like yours to see the light. This is God's will.
You're mad and dangerous. You're nothing but a soulless butcher. A small-time Torquemada. The Savonarola of Whitechapel.
My son, if you think salvation is a free gift, go listen to the lies of that pompous fool, Joseph.
Joseph, a fool?
Vicar Larrabee of St. Mary's Church. While he continues preaching his fraudulent redemption, more and more people die in the streets.
Have you any friends? Any family left in these terrible times?
No. But I have a disciple I see as my son. He is so devoted. I sent him to preach the good word in the heart of this corrupted city.
Where did you send him?
I sent Samuel to the Stonebridge Cemetery, where the pestilence and evil grows night after night.
You sent him on some preaching crusade during the epidemic.
As a true believer, Samuel will fear no evil while he walks through the valley of the shadow of death.
Dost ujetý. Což jsem si myslel. To bude to furt to, co
What
se
do you mean when you say that I am more lost than you thought?
All signs.
Quite a...
Jo, to je tohle, no. Tak to nic, to nebudeme znovu poslouchat.
Do you know Nurse Dorothy Crane from the Pembroke Hospital? I'd like to know more about her.
I don't like the liberal ideas of nurses, but I especially abhor that Nurse Crane you mentioned.
So, you're not exactly a fan of Florence Nightingale's work. But nurses are essential for modern healthcare.
Nuns should be the only women allowed to take care of male patients. It's obvious only they have the necessary moral fibre.
Why do you hate Nurse Crane more than other nurses?
Before coming to London, she was a member of the communist resistance in our country. That's what happens when you let a woman get involved in politics.
Dobrá,
I've had
díky.
enough for tonight. Goodbye.
Řekl nám toho taky dost. Ne, že ne. Víme teda o tom, že tady něco on zahodil od toho Claytona. Že tady zahodil něco do schránky. Tyjo, to je ukecaný díl, co? Ale já tyto informace potřebuji prostě pozbírat, abych potom mohl krásně vysávat. Takže já chápu, že pro někoho to může být velice nudný a naprosto zbytečný. Ale jak říkám, musí to být. Je lepší se to přetrpět teď, než potom tady později, že? Tady někde je ta schránka, někde musí být ta schránka. Najde poštovní schránku. No, tak to jsme ji našli velice rychle. Tak to bychom měli, to bylo jednoduchý. Koukám, že ono to je všude. Abych prostě měl tu šanci to prostě najít. No tak taky proč by ne, že jo. Tady ještě je nějaká jedna osoba, jsem viděl, jo, tak pokecáme ještě s ní.
Good evening, miss. I'm Dr. Reed. I'd like to ask you a few questions. I know what you're thinking. A tall stranger who meets a girl in the street at night. It reeks of the penny dreadfuls. But I mean you no harm, truly.
Hele, Jonathan, já myslím, že tady moc nepochodíme. Ona s náma asi nechce moc mluvit.
Your silence has nothing to do with you being mute, does it? Melia, I know you work for Dorothy Crane. Please tell me about her secret dispensary. A stubborn and mute comrade. Nurse Crane and Darius Petrescu have been clever.
Tak ta teda nic nepoví.
Goodbye then.
Tak mohla by aspoň to napsat na papír. Já moc toho nepožaduju. Já musím jít z druhé strany, no kurňa drá, to není možný. To je tedy nějaká... To vám musím nechat. Dopis Daria Petrescu. Samozřejmě dost se zase pozastavit, přečíst si to hezky v klídku, v pohodě může. Tak, to je totiž hlavní, ano, úkoly předměty. Tak, teď je důležité se dostat ještě tam dozadu za kostel. Tam by se měl nacházet teda asi ten, já nevím, ten malíř, nebo kdo to má být, nevím. Takže to asi zkusíme to zde a vypadá to dobře. Tak. Takže jsme se dostali za kostel. Super. No jo, je tady společnost. Máme tady společnost. Tak párkrát je tady mrdneme. Paráda. Jole, on je tady další. Mrdni ho. Yes, dobrý. Musíme tady pracovat velice rychle. Protože oni jsou, tady ty hajzlové jsou velice... Nemám energii. Teď ho mrdneme, jednou. Pozor. Kurňa drát. Jsem trošku moc vyčerpal tu svoji krev, ale v pohodě. Krev nazbíráme. Z toho bych strach neměl. Z toho bych strach opravdu neměl. Že bychom měli problém s krví. No, v určitých částech hry asi budeme mít problém s krví, to samozřejmě asi uznávám, ale v této fázi bych řekl, že je dobrý. Jak bezděák, já tady furt pledávám ty popelnice. To je neuvěřitelný. Musí celkem komický. Tak, tady něco, tady je bedna. Já rád sbírám bedny, to samozřejmě víme. Dobrý den, nebo příště dobrý večer. Asi jo. Dobře. Je tady něco, co můžu ještě... Jo, dopis. Dopis o odmítnutí od vydavatele. Zase je chce přečíst, může si video pozastavit. Tak, to je další, to budeme potřebovat. Další informace o Richardu. A jinak tady nic už nevidím. Tady já si maximálně můžu otevřít tady ty mříže. Což teda asi uděláme. Tak, dveře byly odemčený. A teď si jdem pokecat s ním a měl by to být asi poslední postava, co bychom si mohli pokecat.
Good evening, sir. I'm Dr. Reed. I would like to ask you a few questions.
Please be my guest. Although I may not be the best informant regarding this part of town, my words speak about that which the eyes cannot see.
Really? Are you an artist of some kind?
I'm a poet, sir. Richard Nethercott, at your service.
Dobrá. Fascinace 3. Vyšetření, nachlazení. Já vás budu muset asi fakt vyléčit, abych vás mohl hezky to klovnout. Takže co tady máme za možnosti? Zase hromadu otázek, máme o něm nějaký dobrý informace zjištěný, takže jdeme se na to mrhnout.
May I ask what you're doing at this hour of night, sir? Do you live here?
Not at all. I'm just enjoying the pleasure of a quiet walk. Though night talks are always preferable, if you ask me. Especially with strangers.
But are you not afraid of the epidemic?
Oh, why should I? I see some equity in the Spanish flu. No flesh should be saved, say the scriptures. Good or evil, rich or poor, all are equal in the eyes of the flu.
If you say so. But as a physician in a time of epidemic, I must caution you to avoid unnecessary exposure, sir.
Thank you, Doctor. But we both know the seeker of truth has to go boldly where the weak dare not.
What are your thoughts on the terrible situation in this city?
Terrible, you say? No. Of course, the death of so many innocents is a tragedy. But the scourge has not been all bad for the city. Oh, no, sir.
What are you talking about?
Do you remember London before the flu? Noisy, cacophonic, quiet nowhere to be found. And now, listen to this oddly peaceful silence.
Tichý klid, vážně vidím jen hrozivou nemoc, skutečně unikátní. Jo, skutečně unikátní úhel pohledu, to musím říct, že má velmi unikátní. Unikátní. No, jdem na to.
Yes. The enjoyable silence of the grave. You have a unique perspective on the situation, I must admit.
Most people fail to understand my perspective. I don't blame them. But how could I call myself a poet if I veiled my feelings?
Are you aware that your life could be in danger in this part of town?
But this is where I must be to feel the real beat of the city. I had to come, see it for myself, alone.
I understand your need for solitude, but it's not safe around here.
I don't care. I don't have many friends, Doctor, and my family despises me.
If some misfortune came upon you, who would be here to help you?
Well, you for a start, my dear Doctor.
You don't really make a living from your scribblings, do you, Richard?
No, sir, I don't. I work so hard. I put all my time, my energy, my devotion into the precise carving of words.
Dobře, bohatý místo jsou vzácnost, měl by se dělat něco užitečnějšího. No, nevím, to asi ne. Zase asi chudoba asi moc netrápí, no.
Still, you don't seem to suffer from poverty.
With thanks to my parents, actually. I'm afraid I would not be able to live on my own without their help.
You seem embarrassed.
Someday I hope to proudly offer my first publication to my parents. Until that day, I'll remain the failure of a son they have to support.
Tell me, Mr. Nethercott, why seek inspiration in Whitechapel?
The place is not beautiful per se, but how to explain it? Stirring and challenging.
Do you not think it a little morbid?
On the contrary, sir. Whitechapel is full of life, full of beauty. Just like my dear muse, the wonderful Camellia.
What can you tell me about Camellia?
Not much. And that's the beauty of it. She can't speak, you know. She's a locked mystery who exhales kindness and sweetness.
Takhle mi si s tím můžeš pokecat, že jo, no.
Perhaps you're just afraid to find out the truth about your muse.
One day, perhaps, I'll ask her to come with me. But will she still be my wild flower of Whitechapel if she moves uptown?
And have you ever tried to learn more about her? Where she lives? How she survives? Whom she may know?
Maybe I prefer she remains an enigma. Reality can be so dull, don't you think?
In what way, exactly?
The struggle by gaslight, the barren smiles and the arid hunger under the rain.
If you say so.
Such vibrant antagonism and vivid paradox. The stripped humanity raged across each street.
Vivid, of course, yes. And what about the poignant distress?
Oh yes, the poignant distress. You see what I mean, don't you? That's what I want to write about, and that's what Whitechapel is made of.
Did you know the mute florist is a member of a secret society?
No, I didn't. But I thank you for this information, sir, for it only enriches the mystery surrounding the precious camellia.
Are you not curious? Is there not more you wish to know?
That girl has not an ounce of malice in her. Whatever she may be hiding, it's certain to be for the benefit of most, if not all.
I fear you are a hopeless romantic, Mr. Nethercott.
Guilty as charged, Dr. Reed.
No, musím říct, že už mu... Jo, až tady máme tohleto. Ale jinak jsme si dost pěkně pokyceli tady s Richardem. Teď to vyklop.
May I ask you a few questions about the district?
Extraordinary part of town, is it not? I'll be glad to help you, if I can.
I'm looking for Dorothy Crane, a nurse who lives in this vicinity.
Dorothy Crane. Oh, I love the name. The Crane of Whitechapel. Sounds very mysterious. But, sorry, no, never heard of her.
What can you tell me about an old man called Darius?
Darius Petrescu? Yes, I know him. At first, I thought he was only a small publisher. I invited him to publish my work, but his reaction was pretty clear.
Not interested in your talent?
Darius is an old political activist who takes delight in printing tracts and lampoons. Those communist activities only require mediocre writing skills.
I'll leave you alone, sir.
Darius is a bit less of a mystery now. It should not be that difficult to incite him to let me in.
Dobrá, takže my už máme momentálně se dostat už přímo k němu. No, řekl bych, že po tomhle dílu vyčerpávajícími rozhovory a všemi možnými dialogy bych řekl, že tady bych to nejradši zakončil a zalomil a abychom si v dalším díle mohli mrknout rovnou na příběh, protože teda tím pádem máme už nějaký důvod, proč by nás měl pustit dovnitř a možná, že jakož tam nechali ta Doroty, tak tam možná pokecáme ještě s tou Doroty, takže bych řekl, že příběhově nás toho čeká ještě dost. No nic, takže kde já se tady s váma rozloučím, to já nevím, třeba tady to je takový hezký, ne? No nic, takže já vám moc krát děkuji, že jste dokoukali až sem, doufám, že se vám video líbilo. V tomto díle jsme se tady dost pokecali s místními občany v tomto městě, takže máme teďka, bych řekl, tu nudnější část, nebo pro někoho i zábavnější, jakoby dejme tomu za sebou, už tam tady zbývá jenom pár lidí odhalit, plus tady ještě nějaká jiná lokace tady ještě je, ale zatím bych řekl, že jsme si se všemi pokecali, ještě nám chybí přístav, ale to bude až trošku dál v příběhu. Takže jsme si dost pokecali, vypadá to, že jsme dokonce i trefili dost ty úkoly nás teprve budou čekat, jo, máme tady hromadu vyšetření, takže ještě máme to hromadu, co můžeme tady všechno udělat. No nic, jak jsem říkal, tak dost jsme si tady pokecali a jo, to je všechno, co vám asi budu chtít říct a sdělit. V dalším díle se podíváme teda na další ten příběh. Takže jo. Ještě jednou vám děkuji, že jste dokoukali až sem, doufám, že se vám líbilo video a nějakého dalšího videa se uvidíme. Mějte se hezky. Čus.